Welcome to Empower.Build.Thrive podcast. Today we're exploring one of my favorite topics, the intersection of real estate development and community building. I'm your host, Dominique Anderson, and in today's episode, we're driving into the insanity of the real estate development industry from a community development perspective, right? So, they say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Nowhere is this more evident than in the way many developers approach community engagement, or should I say, lack thereof. Too often, developers kind of ideate and design an entire community, all of the concepts down to the dog park. Don't get me started on dog parks versus human parks without ever truly engaging the community, right? And what they're supposedly building for. I was on a spoke at a program yesterday with a group of emerging developers, and there was an assertion that affordable housing, everybody should want it. And you would think so, right? You would think, I'm building affordable housing, I'm building housing that is attainable, that's workforce, all these great things, and that everybody should be super excited for you to be doing that. But you would be amazed because you didn't ask people, what do they want? How do they feel? What do they think? It's automatically a no. And I'll be very honest with you, just showing up as a developer, automatically a no sometimes, right? Sad but true. But wait, you might say, don't developers hold community as part of the planning process? Don't they hold these meetings? Sure, they do. But it's often a box ticking exercise rather than like a genuine attempt to involve residents in shaping their own neighborhoods. It's vastly different from community development to just developing and saying, hey, community, come along. Doesn't mean that it's a chosen, nefarious, terrible, bad thing. It just sometimes it just kind of happens, right? You know, the planning departments of the world will say, really only require you to have that one community meeting. So you, as a developer, say, hey, I love community. I want to do this. I want to make sure they understand what I'm building. Where's the issue there? Because you've just said, I'm building this. I'm not asking you. I'm just telling you to be kind, right? I love this for you. Insert there. Um, this is what I'm building. So I hope you like it, but you should because it's kind of sort of for you. So there's our issue, right? That rather than involving people in the process, you're telling them, I've already done everything, just show up. And then you're surprised, and a lot of my developer friends and clients and colleagues are surprised, and community developers, when they encounter negative community responses, lack of support from council persons, and other roadblocks along the way, right? And so when I worked in a project, I worked in Nashville on a project in a community that was historically much more diverse than it looks now. But the council person got smart and said, you know what? If you want to talk to me, go through them first. Talk to that organization or talk to Dominique or whatever the case. But you have to have those conversations first before you come and talk to me. And that was, I've been a lot of tense phone calls for me and my people, but it was all good. We got it done. And that's how things like community benefits agreements and different community options show up because the council person says, come to them first. They give you your input, then come to me. So it's pretty great, right? I think so. So, right, like how do developers do this differently? How can you do it differently? How can you get more support for your projects from community? How can you make sure you're putting people in? How can you break free from this cycle of insanity and truly engage with communities in a meaningful way? Before I give you all of these awesome tips that I have, of course we have tips. Who would I be? Let me tell you about a project that my firm is working on in East St. Louis. So there's a church and they've bought land at different times, right? So they have different points in times where they've bought land and now they want to build affordable, attainable workforce housing. Great. So we kind of think through what's the concept, They've already had some community feedback. It's a church, so they have community that said to them and people around them that said, we need more affordable housing or we need better housing because this block and these blocks are empty. Great. So now they have massed this land and we're getting ready to we know at a high level that senior affordable housing is what serves that community because they've heard it. But, before we start designing concepts and think about all of the shiny things, what do we say the first step has to be? Community engagement. So we're having a meeting, just the team, and we say, and the client, let's do a community meeting. Let's have a really great first step, and it's going to lead to other meetings because we're not a one show pony over here. We have multiple community meetings because that's how you really engage communities. Because what if one person showed up this week, but they couldn't show up next week? The next person showed up, so you have to start all over, and somebody's going to feel left out. Inevitably, no matter how many touch points, you've got to make sure that you have multiple. So the first thing we think about is, all right, what day of the week is most advantageous for this community? Well, it's a Saturday. Cool, let's do a Saturday. And then I said, well, we know that we're going to have, if it's a senior community, we're going to have stakeholders from that community, people that serve the senior population. We're going to have seniors, right? We're going to have people that are emerging into seniors because ultimately they will also need to know about this. But one of the things that, and maybe children of seniors to help them get into this community. One of the things that we had to think about was think through the whole thing. So I said, hey, where's the kiddie corral going to go? And I don't know, maybe that's, I don't know if people still say that, so I age myself. But right, the kiddie section, when you go to the fair, they have a kiddie corral in case your kids get lost or whatever. They can be there and play and they can find their parents. Or it's just places for young toddlers to go at different events. So that kiddie corral, we need to have that space where not only do we have people that are going to staff that, right? We have um, volunteers that are background checked and they're kid friendly and all the things to come and stay with these young children so they're not sitting in our meeting while we're talking about things that mean nothing to them. We also need to get some donations of iPads or different things. We need some media type of space where maybe we can have a TV on. We need to look at what kind of snacks or food are we going to have there. Think about the full process. Where it's a Saturday, so we decide on a Saturday what types of things are we having for the participants, for the adults, right? There's got to be food there. We are going to be a very equitable and inclusive community meeting. In addition to this, notice we haven't talked about charts or markers or any of those other things. We start at the holistic human perspective when we build these community engagement sessions. We know the end result, right? We need information and we need the feel good information and we need feedback so that we can begin to develop the space, this pocket community. By the way, my jam, my absolute love is pocket communities. While they don't serve a large swath, it's about 12 to 15 homes, but they have a communal space and it's a really great concept, right? But again, what if we talk to the community and they say we don't want any of that? Well, we'll meet in the middle somewhere. We'll meet in the middle somewhere. But this is what, when you start these community planning sessions, think about each piece, a holistic human perspective, and not just whiteboards and charts and sticky notes and markers and laying it out. But we don't want people there rolling their eyes and bored. We want people engaged, and we want their sense of comfortability. And when you show, hey, we've really thought through in an authentic way, getting people here and not just having some Panera slapped up, but we really are thinking about each part. That's going to go a long way to really starting goodwill between yourself, your organization, your project, and the community that you're working in, right? So that's my East St. Louis story. Let's think about some really actionable items for better community engagement. So you say, Dominique, all right, great. Well, we're doing it wrong. Well, tell us what to do right. I didn't say you did it wrong. I just said that there's some room for improvement. De-ruffle your feathers. I can say this because I've done this a lot. And so I know there's some ruffled feathers right now, right? So, what are some tips, some actionable items for better community engagement? First of all, start early and start often. Put the pencil down. If you've ever heard me speak anywhere, if you see me on anything, I'm going to say the same thing first. Put the pencil down. Before you start drawing and designing and all the, don't wait until you've polished a plan to engage with the community. Start the conversation early in the development process and continue it at every stage. Have a long term engagement plan, have a long term communication strategy so that you're touching points with the community and you're answering questions. And listen, I'm sitting right in the middle of a space where I know people have. There's a project, a huge project. I won't name it, right? I just won't. But there's a huge project that's happening around me, wherever I am in the world, because I'm always somewhere. But they have done this really great website, and they started out with some really great meetings, and it was wonderful. And they answered some very high level, super too early questions. And then there's a website, and they put things there. And then the meetings are kind of mysterious from there. I wouldn't necessarily say that's the best way to do it. If you want people to continually be engaged, continually engage them, right? So, they need to understand that there is value in their input through the whole cycle. Listen before you design. Put the pencil down. Too often, developers come in with the preconceived ideas about what a community needs without ever taking the time to listen. We have two ears and one mouth, so we can hear twice as much as we speak. Use that. So listen to the people who actually live there. Take time to listen to the residents' concerns and ideas and aspirations before putting pen to paper or pencil, whatever your medium of choice is. Marker, crayon, whatever you do, whatever you draw with, wait, right? Save that architecture money. Save that part of your budget, that pre-development drawing and rendering. Hold on. Talk to people first and find out, there's always going to be what they want, what you want, and then that middle. And what you're trying to do is make that middle as advantageous for all parties involved. Sometimes it just doesn't pencil out, but sometimes it does, right? So you don't know unless you do it. Diversify your outreach. Again, talking about that big project. Started out hot and it was great. It seemed wonderful. They have a lot of great media, but they've left the community kind of in the dark and in the dust, and that's what we don't want. So don't just rely on community meetings to engage with residents. Explore a variety of outreach methods, right? From online surveys to pop-up events to ensure that you're reaching a diverse range of voices within the community. And then, make sure that you're transparent. Be transparent. Transparently right now, this second, I'm actually trying to find this thing to turn on my do not disturb on my phone. All right, there we go. So be transparent. Transparency builds trust. Be upfront with the residents about your intentions, your timeline, and the potential impacts of your development. Don't hide behind any fancy jargon or obtuse truth. Listen, omitting the truth is a lie. Just because you didn't say the thing doesn't mean that you didn't lie. Or when things shift, listen, things happen. If it looked like you could build, you know, 40 units and because of whatever happens, you can only build 30. Tell them up front. Tell them why and make sure that's an in-person opportunity, right? Nothing is worse than slapping on the website and going, well, we told you. Don't do that. Just be upfront with individuals. Be right there with them. Talk to them like you'd want somebody to talk to you if they're impacting where you live, right? So transparency builds trust. And then empower those community leaders. Identify and empower local community leaders, neighborhood associations, block clubs, uh, anyone who can act as a liaison between, yourself as the developer or your developer clients and the residents. And sometimes we think, all right, well, we talk to that neighborhood association, or there's no neighborhood association. We don't really have to talk to anybody. Listen, who's the nosy neighbor? Who has all the tea of the neighborhood? I promise you, that person is going to show up at your council meeting and have a 12-minute speech prepared about why you shouldn't be able to build there because you don't care about the people and you never came and talked to us. When really you never came and talked to them, right? Who's been there the longest? Who's the longest living neighbor in the community? Talk to them. They've seen things come and go. They've seen people come and the snake oil salesman. They've seen all the things. Talk to them, include them in your conversations. Okay, they're not tech savvy. All right. Well, how else do you get? You have to go knock the doors. Like these are the things we have to go a little bit old school sometimes, right? These individuals will help you bridge the gap and ensure that community voices are heard and respected. Don't forget about your religious institutions, your nonprofits in the area, right? All of these just really pull back the carpet and see what's that wood look like? What's who's there? Who's really in that house, right? And so those are my thoughts. By following these actionable items, developers, you can break free from the insanity of the status quo. Break free from the status quo. Forge a new path forward. Do something new, something bigger. Hey, listen, you don't have the bandwidth internally? Call me. That's what I'm here for, right? No, I'm kidding. There's a billion of us that do this work. S- but you're here, so you should probably just call me. One Listen, forge that new path forward, one that prioritizes meaningful community engagement and collaboration. After all, when developers and communities work together, everyone benefits. I cannot tell you enough. If you bring in somebody to do crisis on the back end because you didn't do the community on the front end, you did it to yourself. I want to say that again. If you have to bring somebody in to do crisis work for you on the back end because you have such opposition, because you didn't do it on the front end, you did it to yourself. I mean that with love. I really do. It comes from my heart. All right. So, that's all for today's episode of Empower, Build, Thrive. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, join me next time as I continue to explore innovative approaches to real estate development and community building. Until then, I'm Dominique Anderson, and I am signing off.